Two companies, same model, same chips. One costs dramatically more in electricity to run than the other. That gap is why the biggest names in AI are spending billions locking up nuclear power plants right now. And most people watching this space are still looking at the wrong scoreboard. They're watching benchmarks, which lab dropped the hottest model this week, who's winning on reasoning tests, and that's not the race. The real race is on your electricity bill. And when you understand why everything about this industry looks completely different, let me start with how big this actually is. In 2024, data centers consumed about 450 terawatt hours of electricity worldwide. That's roughly 1.5% of every electron generated on the planet that year. That's more than entire countries. And by 2030, data centers alone are projected to consume about 945 terawatt hours, which is slightly more than all of Japan uses today. The whole country, every home, factory, city, just for servers. In the US alone, data centers consumed around 183 terawatt hours in 2024. More than 4% of all US electricity that year. Roughly equivalent to Pakistan's entire annual electricity demand. And through 2025, around half of the US electricity demand growth was being driven by data centers expansion alone. We haven't even hit full AI deployment yet. So the obvious read is more AI, more energy, forever. Build the most data centers, win the AI race. That falls apart pretty quickly because the energy cost running AI isn't fixed. And I don't mean varies by 20 or 30%. Depending on how you deploy it, the exact same model on the same generation of hardware can cost dramatically more or less to run. Research points to differences of 10x or more just from software and deployment choices alone. Think about what that means if you're running a billion queries a day, which is normal for a real product right now. At that scale, even a modest efficiency gain is worth millions of dollars a year. A 10x improvement changes whether your business model is viable at all. So software efficiency is a massive lever, but it's actually the smaller one. The bigger lever is the architecture of the model itself. And this is where China comes in a way that most people have completely backwards. DeepSeek is a Chinese AI lab. They released V3 in late 2024 and have since kept pushing further with new models through 2025 that cut inference costs even deeper. But V3 is where the story starts, because it's when the industry had to pay attention. 671 billion parameters sounds enormous, but only 37 billions of those actually active for any given question. The rest just sits there dormant. That's an 18:1 ratio. The architecture is called mixture of experts. Instead of running the entire model every time, it routes each input to the small specialist subset that handles it best. Think of it like a hospital. You get sent directly to the one who specializes in your exact problem. The cardiologist doesn't weigh in on your broken arm. The model does the same thing. You ask a coding question, the coding specialist wakes up, you ask something in French, the language specialist handles it. Everything else stays asleep. Frontier level output at a fraction of the output costs. And this isn't theoretical anymore. In 2025, Google published production measurements showing the median Gemini text prompt used just 0.24 watt hours. And that energy per median prompt has fallen 33 times over the prior 12 months. 33 times in 1 year. And research going back to Google's this architecture has shown it can cut computation and data transfer by 10 to 100 times compared to running a dense model. Though the real range depends heavily on how it's deployed. Now here's the part that should make people in Washington genuinely uncomfortable. DeepSeek built this not despite the chips constraints. They built it because of them. When the US restricted China's access to top-tier GPUs, they couldn't just throw more hardware at that problem. So they had no choice but to get extraordinarily good at squeezing more intelligence out of the compute they already had. Necessity forced them to optimize at the architecture level, and they did it. Now think about what the chip export control strategy is actually doing. The hardware advantage is real. It matters. But if you're simultaneously forcing China to get better at running intelligence cheaply, which is exactly the capability that wins at scale, you have to ask whether you are slowing them down on the metric that actually counts, or whether you are accidentally accelerating it. That question is almost entirely absent from the policy conversation right now. Back to the nuclear deals, because this is where it all comes together. Microsoft signed a 20-year agreement tied to restarting the 835 megawatt plant formerly known as 3 Mile Island. Not built a new plant, restarted one. The site of the worst nuclear accident in American history, driven entirely by the rising power demands of AI data centers. Meta signed a 20-year deal for around 1 gigawatt of nuclear power in Illinois, one of the largest single clean energy procurement deals ever signed at the time. And Google contracted for up to 500 megawatts of small nuclear reactors through a company called Kairos Power, with first deployment targeted around 2030. Reactors that haven't even been built yet. They are pre-buying power from the plants still on paper. And Amazon is publicly targeting more than 5 gigawatts of similar capacity by 2039. And none of this is about going green. This is pure competitive strategy. Running AI at scale needs power that's just always there. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, no matter what. Solar goes to zero at night. Wind disappears when it's calm. Nuclear doesn't care, it just runs. And when you lock in a 20-year fixed rate contract, you are not just buying electricity, you are building a cost position that's very hard for a competitor to replicate quickly. You can't just go and buy nuclear contract on demand. These plants take years to permit, years to restart. And the operators are already committed. There's quite a winner in all of this that almost nobody's talking about. Constellation Energy. They are the operator behind the 3 Mile Island restart and Meta's Illinois deal. They are not building AI, not competing on benchmarks, not writing a line of code. They are the landlord, collecting fixed rent on infrastructure everyone else desperately needs. For 20 years, while the tenants scale up around them. This is the same dynamic that played out with cell tower companies when mobile took off. The carriers spent billions fighting over spectrum, network, handsets. The tower companies just sat there and collected rent for decades. Some of the best performing infrastructure stocks of the last 20 most people have never heard of. And Constellation might be that for AI. So the hyperscalers have the energy position. The nuclear operators are locked in as landlords. And everyone stuck in the middle is getting compressed from both sides. Mid-tier GPU cloud providers renting out compute without a meaningful energy advantage or an actual edge face a structural problem that doesn't get easier over time. One concrete way to see how wide the efficiency gap already is PUE, power usage effectiveness. It's just a ratio of total power a facility uses versus how much actually reaches the servers doing the work. 1.0 would be perfect. Every watt goes to computation, nothing wasted. Google's data center fleet ran at 1.09 in 2024. The industry's average, according to Uptime Institute's 2024 survey, was 1.56. About 8% of your energy still goes to overhead. Cooling, lighting, power conversion. At 1.56, it's 36%. Over a third of every electricity dollar in an average data center never touches a single server. That's a 28-point difference on every kilowatt hour forever. Not a one-time thing. Permanent, structural. And Google didn't get there by deciding to care about it one day. They spent over a decade building custom cooling systems, designing their own chips, optimizing airflow at the rack level. You can't replicate that in 2 years. It compounds. One more layer that almost nobody's drawing correctly. As energy contracts become the real infrastructure of this industry, geography starts to matter in ways that don't show up in any current AI ranking. France got about 67% of its electricity from nuclear in 2024. Norway gets around 89% from hydropower. Canada's largest electricity source is hydro. Iceland runs on geothermal, so abundant that electricity prices there are among the lowest in the world for energy-intensive industries. These countries are going to matter more, not less, as this decade plays out. The AI map and the energy map are becoming the same map. And right now, almost nobody is drawing that. Here's the question I keep coming back to. Everyone asks how much energy AI will consume. The better question is, which grows faster, the demand for AI output or our ability to produce cheaply? Because everything's being built right now, the nuclear deals, the liquid-cooled data centers, the infrastructure bets, they're all wages that demand outpaces efficiency. That we keep wanting more AI faster than we get better at running it. That might be right. Efficiency gains historically get swallowed by more demand. More fuel-efficient cars? People just drove more. Cheaper flights? People just flew more. Every time we made something cheaper, we just consumed more of it. AI will probably follow the same pattern. But here's what makes right now genuinely different. Current AI systems are still operating far above the fundamental physical limits on how efficient computational can get. Physics sets a hard theoretical floor on the minimum energy a computation requires. What physicists call the Landauer limit. We are nowhere near it, which means the efficiency curve has a lot of room left to run. More room than most technologies have at the comparable stage of development. The hyperscalers are betting that scale wins. More compute, more power, more infrastructure. The architecture engineers are betting that the intelligence just gets cheap, that you don't need to own a nuclear plant if you build the model right. Both sides are spending billions, both sides have brilliant people, both could be right on different timelines, but both can be right on the long run. And whoever reads that correctly is going to see what the rest of the market misses for the next decade. So the scoreboard isn't benchmarks. It never was. It's joules per token. And right now, almost nobody is watching it.